Good morning, everyone. I hope I am audible to all of you. Maybe good morning, good afternoon, and good evening based on the location where you are. Today I'll be talking about the topic of securing the microservices. Okay. Since this was planned since long, so I named it as microservices security and all. Maybe since we are all through the lockdown phase, so I thought it would have been better. I would have named it as locking down your microservices. Okay, we'll go through the journey of securing the microservices for this 1 hour. And if you have any questions, you can post me in the chat. And if there are any things, we can discuss at the end of the session. Okay, I'll just move on for the agenda part. Okay, so I think there will be just little lag from what I'm presenting and what you're seeing. So I hope that we can manage. So once it turns out, then we'll go in. Okay, so the agenda for today. Okay, we'll just have a brief introduction on what is monolithic, and to understand the security concepts of monolithic. Why do we to understand the security concept of microservices? So why do we need to understand the architecture of monolithic? So next, we'll be discussing on the topic called as what are microservices. Okay, a basic brief introduction on very brief introduction. We'll not go deep because this topic we are covering more on the microservices security. So we'll have a very brief introduction on that. Then we'll go through what is like communications between microservices. So we'll talk how microservices communicate with each other, because that is been the most important thing to understand the security part. Then we'll look about the challenges for securing the microservice. Okay, so what are different challenges we would face to secure the microservices? Then we'll look the one of the security type called edge security within the microservices. Okay, so we'll try and see and understand what is edge security. So after going through the edge security, we will actually go to the service to service communication and how we secure them. And finally, we will try to understand some of the best practices that are there in the securing microservices best practices. Okay, so if time permits and all, I'll try to present you with a small demo as well. So we'll go through that. Okay, so next, moving on, let us try to understand and see like what is monolithic architecture. Okay, I hope you are able to see my screen of monolithic architecture. So if you observe the architecture present there, I mean, we can understand that monolithic is one whole set of application. Okay, so I mean, all your modules or your services, whatever you call, are bundled into one basic system and are deployed, and they share a common database in between. So with respect to whoever the client is, all will access only the single application that is available. So this is at a very high level monolithic architecture, which most of us are aware of it. Okay, and coming to microservices. Okay, so if we see, I mean, try to understand and see what are microservices. So from the definition standpoint, or from the information standpoint, if you see, right, so microservices are nothing but it's architectural style which helps you to structure your application basically into small autonomous applications, I mean, or autonomous services, I would say. So you develop small services which are like manageable by independent teams and all, and those are deployed independently and they have loose coupling. So all these characteristics of microservices abide and give you the architecture part of your microservice applications. Okay, so if you see, I mean, the features of what this autonomous service gives you, or what are they basically. So we'll be able to see that these services are highly maintainable and testable. Okay, so these services are loosely coupled, and they are independently deployable. They are modeled around a business domain, okay, owned by a small team. So we can see these characteristics, like a microservice has loose couple architecture. They are deployed independently. They are managed by a small team, and they are maintainable and testable, and they are built around a particular business domain. So if we try to understand based on the business domain part, so if we have a particular business domain, so when we say business domain, it could be any particular business domain. It could be from the banking sector, insurance side, healthcare, stock brokerage, logistic, transport, or whatever it is. So if you take such business domain, so when we talk about the services that are bundled, okay, so all the services you would be seeing that they are bundled around this particular business domain, and they provide you a special functionality or special capability of handling your microservices. So these independent services give you the complete suite of managing that particular business domain. So that is why we call like these microservices are modeled around your business domain. Okay, so now we have already seen the architecture of a monolithic thing. So if we want to go ahead and see how microservice architecture is like, we have different flavors that are available for us. Okay, so in microservices architecture, if you see, usually any client, if he wants to access, it will be via an API gateway. Okay, so via the API gateway, you have your microservices exposed, and they will be accessed to with the end user client or some other system. So mostly these microservices have their own independent database. So that is how we represent the microservice architecture. And another architecture, if you see, I mean, so you have identity provider, which is I mean, integrated with your API gateway as well. So the identity provider, okay, so the identity provider checks for the client credentials and all, and then gives access to the particular service. So you can have your content managed by CDN. You can have your service discovery, which is trying to discover your remote services and all, and provide the communication between the services, the client and service to service communication and all. Okay, so these are some of the architectures from architecture standpoint of it. So we'll try to understand how microservices communicate with each other, because based on that particular communication only, we'll be actually trying to build our security aspects and all. Okay, so when we look in the communication part of microservices, right? So microservices basically communicate in two way. One is the synchronous communication, and other is mostly the asynchronous communication. So in the synchronous communication, if we see, right, so every I mean, from the client or a service, both of them expose a common endpoint, and those endpoints are used for communication. Okay, and this communication happens via HTTP. So those services should always be available if you have to communicate via the endpoint, and that is the synchronous model. So a client calls the API gateway interacts with some service A, and then service A would talk to some other service B, and service C as well. This is what actually happens. And then what we have is, we have, if we take an example of synchronous thing. Okay, so if we have a client and we are talking about a shopping cart application, so what basically happens is, in a shopping cart, a client calls the cart for identifying his products or what he wants to buy. Then the cart, once it receives that information, it triggers a order service. The order verifies whether that product is available in the product catalog, and if that service is available within the product catalog, what happens is it goes to the persistent invoice store, and then it is persisted in the DB. So this is basically a synchronous way where endpoints are being exposed and they are communicated. Okay. The other model of communication between microservices, what I was telling, is basically the asynchronous communication. Okay, so in asynchronous communication, again we have two different ways. So one is the one to one communication. In a one to one communication, what happens is we have a queue, and whenever a request comes via the API gateway, the service is hit, and the service which has to communicate to other services, it will direct to a queue. So where the other service is listening, so it takes the information from the queue, and then it actually does its activity. So when we are talking basically in terms of queue, so we can use any MQ series like Apache Kafka or RabbitMQ or anything, the messaging broker technique, which helps us to achieve this. And we can post our messages to that particular queue. So in the asynchronous mode, if you see, we basically have a client, the same example. The client calls the cart. Now the cart does not call the service directly because there is no HTTP endpoint communication. So what happens is the message is sent to Kafka queue, from where the order service which is listening will pick up, and it does its job, and it posts, and it moves to the product catalog, and so on. So that is how the asynchronous communication in one to one stand happens. Again we have the same asynchronous communication happening in different format, which is like a one to many format, where you have a topic defined, and what happens is this service will post or publish the requested information to a topic, and from there the services which are subscribing to the topic, they will pick it. So this is basically one to many form of asynchronous communication. So these communication techniques we need to understand very thoroughly, so that when we are building these security models around this communication, we have to understand what type of security we have to build for this particular microservices. So before going into the security part, so what are the challenges that one would face to build or secure microservices? So usually we would require client credentials. Okay, so the user needs to access the microservices, so we would need the client credentials. So when a client is providing credentials, now the question would be, where do I save these credentials? Okay, so where and how I can save this particular credentials? So that would be a challenge. Okay, so should I put it in a session, or how it is? Next, do we need to ask the credentials every time he logs in? So when the communication happens from service to service, so should I ask the credentials every time? And similarly, if we are following a common functionality or common code across of building all these things, so how do we manage that? So when a client is providing the credentials, so these are some of the challenges within microservices which we have to manage. Next, we have seen that microservices communicate with each other. So okay, when microservices are communicating with each other, so what happens? So how do you ensure that the service or the data of one service is not being exposed or being used by other service? So that we should be very careful. So service to service communication security challenges are very high here. So what kind of information we are saving, I mean sharing, and how we are trying to show it to the caller or the service that is trying to invoke our service. Okay, next, if we see that microservices are mostly built on a polyglot application framework. Okay, so what do we mean by polyglot application? So we know that microservices are built using different languages. So each service could be built in a different language. So when we are saying that the service is built in different language, now we don't have a common security framework that is trying to support, or that supports all these multiple languages. Okay, these days we have Okta, which is a kind of I mean, your authentication and authorization provider, a common framework where you can define. And also it provides a good integration if you have any I mean, third party already running authentication mechanisms like LDAP or whatever it is. So that is one thing which is available. But if you see, apart from that, we don't have a common framework which actually supports all these languages. Okay, so that is why when we are building microservice applications using different languages, so we end up challenging ourselves on the security part. Okay, so next is like we have how do we deploy the applications. Okay, so since all these applications which we are building, they are part of different language or different approach, right? So deploying them would definitely be challenging for us. So if every language comes with a new approach, so deploying them will become a uh, challenging task during the security aspect of it for us. So now the microservices, what we are discussing, they are spread across, they are distributed. So the broader the service, the broader the attack scope. So what happens is when we say we are having a broader attack service, so we'll have large number of entry points, and there is no single point of control for all these entry points. So that is one challenge. So all our services are distributed, and we just share the endpoints. So endpoints are shared in a large number. And now to control all these things, we don't have one particular single central control point, and that deviates the main purpose of microservices. Next is the aspect which we would face is performance, because we are planning to have security at all entry points and managing security for every aspect. So this would be little challenging for us in terms of managing the performance of our applications. Okay, so we end up providing better security, but we might end up compromising on the performance. So this is one challenge which we will be having it. And last point, what I would like to discuss is mostly about the observability. So when we talk about observability, so we have to like track the service to service communication, or the request, the span that is happening across these multiple services and all. So we need to manage the logs, metrics, trace, which are the three pillars of observability. So this also becomes little challenging. So when we are providing security, so observability also becomes challenging for us. So these are some of the aspects that I wanted to discuss about the challenges. So, and before moving to further, so when we are talking about securing our microservices, there is one topic which I wanted to talk on, and explain it in little depth. Okay, which is called the defense in depth. Okay, so why we need to understand this is because the deeper our services are, the deeper our security mechanism should be, and we have to identify and think about how do we manage that particular communication with defense in depth. So the defense in depth model, I would like to explain to you with a war episodes basically. So in a war, what do we see is we have multiple troops which are ready to fight for a battle. So each troop will have its own mechanism and its own planning to fight actually. So each troop will be named with something, and that particular troop, say the troop 1 will attack first, or troop 2 will be at the back end and try to defend something. Then there will be some other troop with managing such a way that they don't enter into the fort, or they don't penetrate into the kingdom, basically break out. So all these strategies what we see, having multi-layer protection in the war battle, having good techniques to protect them from the enemies that are trying to intrude into their system and all, what do we see is like they develop a depth in their defense. Okay, and if somebody is very close to the say kingdom, or they are ready to enter, or they are trying to climb the walls, we have seen like sometimes they throw the fireballs so that you don't enter, or they boil the oil and just they put it up. So those techniques we have seen. So these are some of the techniques which are used in basically in the war battle, but we can apply for ourselves when we are building a secure microservices. So what we can do is, at every entry point and every service communication, we have to ensure that we have that particular defense mechanism developed. And after developing so many defense mechanisms also, we cannot be sure that we have secured our part completely, because there are many ways, like the intruders or hackers that can come into your system and break your system. So the image which I am showing now, this was from a recent Indian movie. So the people used a technique to fly and penetrate into the kingdom. Okay, so that is how they entered and they broke the kingdom and they won the war. So same thing can happen. So people have multiple ways to penetrate into your systems and then break your system. So we have to ensure that our depth in the defense is properly managed. Okay, so this one term I wanted to tell very specifically, because that is very key for us while we are developing the microservices. So when it comes to the microservices standpoint, okay, so how can we have this defense in our depth? So the current diagram what I am showing is, you can have multiple entry points. Okay, so based on that particular entry point, we can assign a TLS certificate, or earlier it was SSL. So we can use that. Then we can have a firewall, and the firewall also like it uses the TLS mechanism to authorize and then publish the or penetrate the client into the API gateway. So the API gateway, it can have its own authorization mechanisms also, and the same TLS certificate will be used. So whichever service needs to be communicated again after the API, they have to maybe again authenticate and authorize themselves, which I am showing it here in the identity provider. And there are multiple techniques to talk and access to the service. Like you can have a messaging queue, I said, or you can have a direct HTTP endpoint shared and talk to the services. So you can provide like having a TLS layer, having a firewall, having a API gateway, and again finally once the user credentials are reaching the service, you can still have identity provider validate them and work through that. So this is one way we can achieve the defense in depth kind of model to secure our microservices. Okay, so next, when we discussed about the communication, right? So we said like we communicate in synchronous way, and we communicate in asynchronous way. And in communication, if you are sharing the endpoints, okay, so the client is accessing via the endpoints, it is called the edge security. Okay, so at the edge, we are trying to secure our services, and that is also called as the north south security or north south communication model. And for the service to service communication which happens, that is called east west service communication model, and we'll just see shortly about that. Okay, we for edge security model, we can use techniques like using JWT token and API gateway. Okay, so similarly, if not JWT token, we can use OAuth with OpenID or OAuth with JWT and all these things. So now we'll see like how this JWT token and API gateway will help us to achieve this security. So I have a user here basically, and the user wants to talk to the purple service which I am showing here. So obviously when a service is there, this particular service would try to register with the API gateway. So the API gateway, the service will be registering to a API gateway that I am available, and this is my HTTP endpoint which needs to be shared. So the user who wants to access this, he has to provide his credentials. Okay, so we will be having a identity store, which is basically storing the user credentials to validate and all. So whenever the user wants to access, so the user will share his credentials to the API gateway. The credentials will be validated with the identity provider. So once the identity provider validates the credentials and finds that this is a valid user, so what he would do is he would try to issue him a JWT token basically. Okay, so once the JWT token is issued, okay, so that JWT token is propagated back to the customer saying that okay, these are your valid credentials and your JWT token is valid. Okay, so now the JWT token is shared with the user. So to communicate to the services, now the user has to use this JWT token because his credentials are authenticated, and now that credentials would have been put as in the JWT header and send it to the user. So the user will try to invoke the access for this particular purple services. So he has to pass this JWT token via this API gateway to that particular service. Okay, so the access occurs and the JWT token is shared to the purple service. So once the purple service receives this particular JWT token, what this service does is it tries to validate with respect to the identity store. So the service will not blindly believe that okay, this user has come, so I can trust him and I can give him the access. So it will take this JWT token and do the validation with the identity store. Okay, so once the identity store confirms that yes, this token was issued by the identity store for that particular user for accessing this, so this service will provide the access to that particular microservice. Okay, so now say I have some other different maroon service which I wanted to communicate, or service to service communication needs to happen there. So this purple service would invoke the maroon service. Okay, and now that the JWT token is already available with the user, so the user will pass that JWT token to this purple service. So the purple service would pass this token to the maroon service, and maroon service would again authenticate back to the identity store to validate this particular user credentials, so whether this JWT token is valid or not. So that way the communication happens using the JWT token and API gateway. Okay, so if in case maroon service does not want to use the same JWT token provided by the user, so what basically happens is, so maroon service sends these credentials of user to identity store and request for a new JWT token. So that is also one more approach that a different service can take to do the authentication. So this way we ensure that our services are more secured. Okay, so that is what happens during this API gateway and JWT token. So the problem with this could be like if the services are much deeper and we have deeper communication, then the managing the token sharing across the services would definitely become challenging for us. So that is how this concept of JWT and the API gateway works together. So this is one way which we can use basically to secure our microservices in the edge security model. Okay, so when I say edge security, that means we are talking about a client or a system or a service directly talking to the endpoint, not via the messaging model or something. So the other technique what we have here is we can use OAuth 2 with the OpenID, or OAuth 2.0 with JWT, or whichever possible combination. So OpenID basically provides us with the authentication model. So we can use OpenID and try to connect to the uh, user credentials and all, validate them, and then provide the token, the OAuth token, and the OAuth will try to assess the user. So when we come to the OAuth 2.0, the framework or the specification says that you will always have a resource owner who is basically owning a particular resource. And as a client, if I want to access that resource, right, so I have to provide my authorization. So the auth server will take care of that particular authorization, and once it validates my credit, it provides me a token. So that is passed to the resource server. So resource server basically validates that particular token and checks if this is properly issued for the genuine user. And once that is confirmed, so the resource server will provide you access to the actual resource. Okay, so that is how this OAuth model or the techniques works for us. Okay, so JWT we have seen, there we get a JWT token. Here we are having a OAuth. So OAuth server configuration and OAuth resource server configuration is something we have to do. Okay, so that will help us to ensure that our services are more secured. Now the other part, the service to service communication. So if service to service are talking via some message broker or any other technique, so what kind of measures do we have, we'll just see. Okay, so in the service to service communication model, I am not going into the deeper service to service architecture, but just at a one layer I will try to explain you. So basically we have multiple entry points which need to access. So we have service 1 and service 2 available here. So these services need to be accessed by any of these clients or the uh, systems that I am trying to show here. So when they try to access in the basic service to service model, but first the entry point would be from one of the user or request or whatever it is. So everything again we have to register via the API gateway. Okay, and once the services are registered in the API gateway, these systems can try to hit the API gateway. Their credentials need to be validated, and then you will be provided with the access. Okay, so for all the credential validations we would be again using the identity provider store, as I mentioned. So the identity provider will do the basic authentication part and give us the required information. So once the authentication is done, the token is again given to the API gateway. So from the API gateway or from the service, we can also do the validation of the token. Okay, so in service to service communication model we have like different flavors of achieving it. Okay, so once the API gateway hits the requested service, okay, I can talk to the other service that I need access to. So this model, whatever we are trying to see, like just providing a access, getting the token, and directly calling the service, this is just happening over the network for us. So we are not doing any other secure mechanisms. So this is basically called as a trust your network model. Okay, so here till now we have not used any other basic authentication features like JWT, OAuth, or anything. So this is a plain like over the network you are just trying to provide your user credentials, and you are trying to gain the access. So this model is called trust your network model. So the problem with this model, or whatever it is, this is mostly described as the anti pattern. So trust your network model is not the thing that you should be using for microservices. So this is no longer pattern that you should be used. So the approach what they say is zero trust network model. So you should never trust the network. So without trusting it, you have to do it. So the other technique what we can use is, we can basically go with the mutual TLS. So earlier we just saw what is a TLS, okay, that is like your transport layer security. Now we have something called as mutual TLS. So mutual TLS, what happens is every other system tries to acknowledge that we are the ones who are participating in this particular certificate. So there is a mutual understanding how they share this certificate. So that is why these are called mutual TLS. So you can use mutual TLS and pass the information over the network via the API gateway using the mutual TLS. So once the client or anybody who is trying to access it, you will pass the mutual TLS to the services, and the services would acknowledge about the mutual TLS, that yes, this is from my service, and the service which is communicating with other service, they pass the mutual TLS. But the problem with this particular model is, so where and how do I share the user credentials? So should I store it in the header, or should I store it somewhere and pass it across the services? That becomes little challenging with mutual TLS, because TLS are more for the certificate verification, validation and all. Now this is a additional overhead for them to manage the user credentials by passing in the header or whatever it is. So this model, because it is challenging to store the user credentials and all, so what we do is we take another approach called mutual TLS plus shared JWT. So we can use a JWT token mechanism, or we can use with the OAuth token mechanism also. So in this, again, once the credentials are validated, we can request for a JWT token. So the token would be issued for that particular client, and like we have seen it in the edge model, right? The same token will be used and shared with the service to service communication mechanism. So once the token is issued, the token will be propagated to the services, and the same token will be propagated to the service communication mechanism. Okay. So in this model also, if a service does not want to use the token provided by the other service, so what it can do is, it can go and request for the next token. I mean, it will just provide this user credentials to the identity store and ask for a issuing of a different token. So similarly, a different token would be issued, and you can access a different service also. Okay, so that is how this service to service communication model we can achieve, like either using mutual TLS with some shared JWT token. And as I expressed, like this token, you can always a service can always ensure that it, if it wants, it can request for a new token. So that is how you can build the application as well. So this is one form of service to service communication. So apart from this, we have other model which is called as a service mesh, where you can secure your service to service communication. Okay, so service mesh, this is little new topic, I would say. I don't want to go deep into this, but at a very overview level, I will try to explain you. uh, like close to 12 to 14% of the industry has started using this service mesh architecture model to secure their service to service communication. Okay, so if we see, here I have described about the Histio architecture. So in Histio we have something called as the control plane and the data plane. So in control plane, we basically have four components like the pilot, mixer, citadel, and sidecar injector. So sidecar injector is the actual proxy, and in the data model you have the proxy and your services. So if you take from the Kubernetes standpoint of view, you deploy your application into a pod. So whenever you are using this service mesh architecture, your proxy and your service will be part of the same pod. Okay, so the proxy here will be acting as your secure service holder. So what happens is, like, all your configurations which are there for that particular microservices, you can just provide it to the galley. So whatever you are seeing here, the galley, that will take off your configuration data. So it passes that data with some information that needs to be secured and all to the pilot. Okay, so you have Citadel. This takes care of your certificate provisioning. So I said, right, we use the mutual TLS as well as the token kind of mechanism. So this mixer does your policy check and telemetry, and you can see here, so the proxies are injected into your pod or your container with your services. So any communication happens via proxy only. So the proxy entry is your ingress gateway and the exit is the egress gateway. So here you can check or you can validate via proxy all the credentials. Like you can see, you can use your mutual TLS, okay, for communication. If you are using any JWT tokens or OAuth tokens, everything your proxy will take care of it. So you need not worry much about your handling your security. So if you can configure your service to service communication in a service mesh model, so that is, this is how it would look like. Istio architecture itself on itself is a big session, I would say. But just to understand the microservice communication, I have put this information here because this is getting into practice now. So if we see from the service mesh standpoint of view, so every service will be having a proxy injected, and via that proxy you will be doing the communication to the other service, and all your authentication authorization will happen via proxy. So any policies like you define or any, so mixer which is doing your, say, your policy definition process, and your policy enforcement will happen at the proxy level. So all this will be taken care via this particular architecture from the control plane and data plane. Okay, so this is another way you can secure your service to service communication. So we have seen the edge security where we are using a JWT or OAuth token, and in the service to service security also we have seen that we can do with the same JWT by having a mutual TLS trust model or mutual TLS with shared JWT token. And we, in the service to service communication, we have also seen that we can do it via the service mesh model where you can use a proxy and you can secure your services. Now let us see some best practices that we have to abide to while building our microservices. Okay, so the first one would be the uh, it is better to use an existing identity provider. Okay, so rather than wasting time in building your own identity system that needs to abide to various standards, it is better you use the frameworks or the concepts or the specifications that are available for you in terms of security. So it could be OAuth or it could be Okta or it could be OpenID or it could be JWT. Anything that is possible you can use. The next thing is it is better we use defense in depth to prioritize the key services. So we have looked at the defense in depth mechanism, what it is and how we can achieve it. But at the same time, just having depth in defense for every service is also not a suitable thing. So it is better prioritize what are your sensitive services, where sensitive information is going. So can we only secure that using this defense in depth mechanism? So that becomes key for us. Okay, so we have to prioritize things and we have to use them. And the other thing is, like, the suggestion is not to write our own crypto code. Okay, So why? Because we already have lot of open source tools that are tested, and lot of amount of time, money, everything has been invested there. So considering those, it is not a good aspect to write our own crypto code. So better use the tools that we are providing, we that are being providing for us. Okay. Next is the automating your security updates. Since we would be using some security patches or security certificates, tokens, all these things. So wherever possible, it is better to have automatic updates. That will make our life easier. Otherwise, like when we are using containers and all, right, so it becomes a big task for us to know which container is using what type of certificate. So how do I upgrade it, and all. So these days, we were seeing like, we did like some analysis couple of years back when our SHA-256 certificates were getting expired for some of the application. So if we don't have this automatic security update mechanism, right, that would become challenging for us. Next is using a distributed firewall with a centralized control. Okay, so we have seen that firewalls provide a granular control over microservices, and again, this firewall remains a uncharted territory for us. So it is better wherever your services are there, you have a distributed firewall there, and you can have a central control mechanism there for this particular services. And next, once you achieve it, like using firewalls, you definitely know that you have some kind of secure mechanism available. The next best practice what we are talking about is protecting your public APIs from denial of service attack. Okay, so now that we have lot of services and we have distributed them, so the person who is trying to access or create a problem for you, he can push in lot of requests or messages and make sure that that service is halted, or that service comes to a stop. So that way we challenge our availability of services. So since our application could not manage so many requests or messages, the system breaks. So the best option is we have to use some rate limit options, and ensure that based once we receive the actual amount of rate, we can just throw back a exception, or tell that the amount of services that are received are completely exhausted now, so we cannot take more services, kind of thing. So that is what we have to do when we are saying protecting our applications from denial of services and all. Okay, so that is one thing. And other best practices is like, we have to use some security scanners for our containers. So basically, I mean, it is not a good practice to blindly trust anything, okay, in this current world. So instead of that, if we have proper periodic scanners, so any code changes or any new things which are coming in up from the container side or from your service side, if you have proper scanners, that will help you achieve them and protect your services. And obviously we have to use tools to monitor everything in our services. Okay, so running a distributed service without reliable monitoring platform will put your applications in risk. So it is better to always have a proper tracing and monitoring mechanism for your distributed tracing. So there are also frameworks available like Zipkin and Sleuth from Spring, which provide you a good distributed tracing mechanism. So we can use some of those techniques and ensure that we are protecting our services. And I think so last but not the least point what I want to say is the performance cannot be compromised. Okay, so when we talk so much about security, and we end of the day we say that okay, I have built a best security mechanism for my microservices and all, but oh, it will take so much time to load and all because of security. That is not acceptable. We cannot just focus on security and sacrifice performance. So at the same time, I mean, when we are focusing on security, we have to ensure that we at least meet the minimum performance criteria, so that our application is not degraded so much because of security. So these are some of the best practices which I would suggest you to use while building your services. I think this pretty much ends my discussion here. In case we have couple of minutes, I can just show a small demo, and then we can get into Q&A session. So let me know if you are able to see my code base. This is a small application which I have taken from Java in use, basically. Okay, so this application tells you like you can generate your token. Okay, and like there are other classes which are trying to ensure how to secure, and if there is any unauthorization that is happening, how we can monitor. So we have the web security configuration, which is basically trying to configure your authentication and then ensure that your application is accessed securely. Okay, so I will just show you with the post call. Okay. So let me know, I think, if you are able to see my postman. So if you see in this particular request, right? So I am providing a username and password. Here this is a wrong password. Okay. So if using a wrong password, if I send this particular authentication request, okay. So okay, I'm sorry, I have to start my server here. So I forgot to start my server. So I've started my server. My server is up and running now. Okay. So if I come back to the postman and try to run this. So I'm using a wrong password here. So you can see that as soon as I set the request, it says unauthorized because I am not authorized with this credentials. Okay. So now I think I'll just have to check. So I am providing a proper password now. Okay. So the username and password are valid. So I would be sending this request now. So I have sent a valid username and password, and I have clicked the send request. So you can see that a new token is generated now. So after using this and cleaning, so you can see that a new token is generated for me here. So this is my JWT token which has been generated. Okay, so I copy this token, and to access my basic hello service. Okay, so I copy this token, and if I have to access my service, so I'll have to come and select the bearer token here, and using the bearer token I can provide this token. And once I give this token here, okay, so I have to select a bearer token there, and on the right side I provide this token here. And once I give this token and run my service, okay, so you can see like it printed me hello world. So that means this JWT token was the user credentials were authenticated, the JWT token was provided, and I am able to access the service. Yeah, I think I've seen a question in the chat saying that this JWT token can be used by any others. Yes, that is the biggest challenge or problem with this. So since bearer tokens are there, bearer tokens have this problem. So anybody who uses this particular bearer token, so he'll be able to access that particular service. So the other option for this is like we either have to use some proof of position tokens where others cannot access this. Okay. So I think with this note, I would try to conclude my discussion. If there are any questions, we can go ahead on the questions.